Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Sweet House. Today I am sitting down with the people's pastor, as I call him, Bishop Walker. We are preaching to the choir and going beyond the pulpit with him today. So you guys make sure you grasp every word of this message because he is delivering inspirational words constantly. And we actually just met today, but I feel like we've known each other for a long time because of social media and because of the way that you communicate on social media. So I like to give everybody that comes to the Sweet House their flowers. And that is one of the things that I absolutely love about you is that you're able to transcend a phone screen and actually speak to people and give people the spiritual guidance that they need. Because I've had days where I'm just like in all kinds of disarray. Right. And then I watched one of your messages and I'm like, woo, 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 woo. I need to sing about this. But then I also will just share the message with people, and people will message me and say how they needed to hear that today. So I just want you to know that your messages are creating a domino effect. Wow. They hit me. And then I'm sharing it. And then with social media, we just keep on sharing and sharing and sharing. So you are really going beyond the pulpit and preaching actually beyond the choir. So thank you for coming and taking the time to be here. And those are your flowers in the Sweet House.
I'm so excited. So excited to be here with you. I am. This is amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm going to get straight to it because we've only got an hour to cover a journey that is absolutely incredible. I think people should know that about you is that you started when you were 24 years old as a pastor. How did you know so early on that this is what you wanted to do? When I was 24 years old, I think I was working on my MBA and I was still unsure to a certain extent of what I wanted to do, especially like spiritually. Like, how did you know? How were you so mature in your spiritual journey at that age?
And that's a very good question. You know, it actually started for me when I was 20. Interestingly enough, I was on my way to law school. I had been accepted to several law schools, Ivy League law schools. I mean, I was on my way to be the Black Matlock, literally. And then I had this call. It's hard to explain it sometimes, but I knew that there was something at work inside of me that was pulling me into something called purpose. And when I yielded to that voice, that still small voice, I was ushered into this place of purpose. And then, of course, I started preparing for it. And when I started pastoring when I was 24, it was my first church. I'd never pastored. So I was experimenting. I think I'm still experimenting now.
You're an expert at this point.
But you know, it was really about, I think, having a good village of people who surrounded me. You know, I was always surrounded by, you know, incredible parents and folks who spoke into my life and really helped me understand the importance of what I was walking into. So I think it was a communal effort to keep me focused and disciplined on that particular assignment.
Did you grow up with a strong spiritual background?
I
did. When you were 20, was that scary for this to come to you?
It was quite scary. I grew up, my father's a deacon, my mom was, so we grew up in church. It was something that we, since a young kid, Easter speeches and just the whole thing, we were the Walker family going to church every Sunday, never missed a Sunday, and watching my dad serve. So it was kind of an organic transition, but to move in this space of leadership and to think of myself as a pastor, particularly at that time and that age, it was overwhelming to say the least, but it was something that I embraced as a call and assignment. So yeah.
I've heard a lot of people describe moments like that as heavy or scary. And it's like a fork in the road of which way do I go? And as a 24-year-old, did you have that sort of inclination happening for you on the journey? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you know, I think there's always this tension about my will and God's will. Like there's this moment where you're like, okay, everything I prepare for, everything I want to do is in this lane. And then God like totally disrupts that and sends you down another lane. You know, it's been said, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm like, God, wait a minute, what? You want to do what? You want to minister? And I remember going to my grandmother, you know, and I said, Granny, look, I said, you know, this call is on my life to preach. I said, I want to do both. So I looked up the programs and I realized that at that time, even today, Vanderbilt had this Master of Divinity program and JD program. So I said, I can do both. I can do law and I can do, ministry. And my grandmother looked at me just with a very stern face, and she said to me, yeah, that would be pretty cool, but you can't lie and tell the truth at the same time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have great respect for attorneys, but I think I understood what she was trying to say, that you have to truly own your assignment, and you have to get beyond your own fears and know that if this is what God is calling you to do, he'll make a way, he'll provide, he'll do those things. And so I trusted the process, and the rest is history.
How do you do that as a 24-year-old, though? I think most people, especially now, because this new generation, they just came through college during the pandemic.
Sure.
Like my brother-in-law, he's 23, and he's just coming through Belmont and out in the real world, and he is saying to himself, what in the world have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
So it's like they're all saying, what next? And then social media is giving them so many options of things to do. So you're talking about these two options of following God's plan for your life or going to law school. Yeah. And then you're also guided by your grandmother, which is great presence in general. So I'm just wondering what you say to the average 20-something who also is experiencing this fork in the road.
Well, I think it's important to say, one, that it is absolutely normal for a person at that age to work through the journey of trying to figure out life. It's really okay. It doesn't make you, lazy, or it doesn't make you, weird. It's just a part of life. At 23 years old, you're still becoming, as we all are still becoming, but you really are in the embryonic stages of adulthood. You're trying to figure out life. There's a lot you want to do. There's a lot of things you want to fulfill personally before you kind of lock into that seriousness of adulting. And I think that it is important, however, to understand that those are very critical years, though. So those are critical years, because what you do in terms of your, focus, in terms of spiritually focus, financially focus, in terms of vocationally, will really, even in your health, those things will have an incredible impact 10, 20 years later. It will. And so you really have to begin thinking, okay, if I'm 20, 21, 22, that 20 to 25 year range, that's kind of decision moment. That's like that decision moment. And that's the moment where you have to realize, my advice would be that surround yourself with wisdom, right? Not trends, wisdom.
Yes.
And secondly, recognize that purpose is not something that comes from without. Purpose is something that comes from within. And when you tap into that inner voice, you begin to realize it was always there. And purpose is always aligned with passion.
Yeah.
And so you can always get a sense what I'm passionate about. There are people who are on jobs, but they're not passionate about it because your job doesn't necessarily mean that's your purpose.
Absolutely.
There could be a frustration, a disconnect.
Yeah.
So the thing that keeps you up at night, the thing that drives you, the thing that pushes you to a place of creativity and innovation, that's often the passion. And so that passion has to be focused, though. Like light can be in a room and illuminate a room. But if you focus that light, it can be a laser and it can cut through steel. So some people have a lot of passion. You ask them what they want to do. I want to be a fireman, an astronaut. That's like a kid.
Yeah.
It's a lot of passion, but it's not focused. And so you don't want to be 25 years old saying, well, I want to do this and do that and do that. It's like you're doing too much. Right. Where's the focus? At some point, you have to focus that passion, and that's where the wisdom comes, mentors come. And I tell people, one of the most important decisions you can ever make in your life is who you allow to mentor you, because what you stand under is what you understand.
See, you guys, we can just call this a night here. I think it's time to go home. He just gave us exactly what we needed. And that's advice for a 20-something that I feel like I wish somebody had told me. I think for millennials, the world was very hard on us. The world told us we were lazy and that we weren't good enough for anything, pretty much. We were good for nothing. But we're actually the generation that's made like technological advancements.
Incredibly creative,
and incredibly creative and focused and entrepreneurial driven, and also managing to navigate the corporate space. So we transcended all those negative stereotypes. But I definitely think that that's going to be great advice for anybody, but specifically that generation, because it is, what do I do? But I have this question for you, because yes, you can focus on your dreams and your aspirations and your passion, but what about the financial side of it that everybody's thinking about? They're like, because even though when you're a kid and you're saying, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a doctor, you're also thinking about just ways that you can financially financially achieve your goals in life, especially when you're coming out in debt from going to college. So what do you say to somebody who's trying to figure out their path in life when it's passion driven, but maybe it's not going to pay?
All right, I'll give you a formula. Okay. It'll be a formula. I'll share it here. Okay.
Only on the Sweet House.
Only on the Sweet House. You agonize. Okay. That's something I agonize over. It's like, ooh, it's pulling at me. When I agonize it, I'm trying to get clarity on what it is. And I visualize it. And I visualize it. Okay. Visualize it. Once I visualize it, and then I move it down and I begin to strategize it. That's the whiteboard. What is this? I see it. I strategize it, organize it. Now, what's the structure of it? How is it going to actually manifest? How do I bring it out of theory into praxis? Organize it. Right. And when I organize it, I galvanize it. I get the right people to come and support it, get behind it. Who's going to actually do it? And then when I galvanize it, I must monetize it. Never agonize, never visualize, never strategize, never organize, never galvanize something you cannot monetize. Okay. It is a waste of energy.
Absolutely.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
So when you walk into a room with all the creativity, all the giftings that are in your life, and you have something in your spirit, if you don't monetize it, somebody else will. That's why it's important to understand the wonderful principle of silence. One of the challenges for a lot of people is that you put too much out there in social media that you don't monetize. And then other people take it and monetize it for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to learn how to move in secret.
I agree.
And then when you're ready, it's already monetized, it's already organized, it's straight, and you're ready to go. And so I think when you step out into purpose, everything I do, there has to be an intersectionality between everything you do. Yeah. Like I try to look at this, like I do more than pastor, you know that.
Exactly.
So I do public speaking, I businesses, I do a lot of things. And so everything I try to do, I try to think, how can this connect to that and that connect to that? So I put content behind it. So if I go and speak to, for example, Chick-fil-A headquarters, right? I go speak, come and do a leadership conference, or McDonald's Corporation. So I have books on leadership. Yeah. So I'm not just coming to speak, but I also connect them to my content. Right. Get it? Yeah. And so I monetize everything I do. So you have to think like that.
But you've also done the work.
Done the work. Because you cannot be one-dimensional. You have to be multi-dimensional. You have to walk in kind of with an ambidextrous anointing. Like, I do more than this. Yeah. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I definitely think you've described my journey, even with birthing the Sweet House. So, I mean, I'm just grateful to even have you here because that is exactly how I thought about it. Yeah. And I actually went to school for broadcast journalism, and I graduated when I was 21, and now I'm 33 doing the Sweet House. Yeah. So it took me some time to get here, but I've done all of those steps.
That's the deal though, right? And that's the beauty of the process, that a lot of folks want the elevator. You took the stairs.
I took the stairs.
And each step, you learned things, took time, and a part of that helps to mature the product. So when you finally produce it, it's at a place of excellence, like the Sweet House.
Absolutely. And I tell people all the time that the guests that I've had on the Sweet House, that's been like my number one question for some reason. Everyone asks, well, how were you able to get such and such? And I'm like, because along the way, I have created these relationships with people, or I knew somebody who knew somebody. And then people also saw my diligence in what I'm doing. And I think that that is why people are more willing to meet me in the Sweet House to have a conversation, because they know I'm serious about it.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah. Like on the street, game recognized game.
Yeah. Period. Period, y'all. So if you guys needed any career advice, and that is one of the reasons why I wanted to start the show, is just to get candid about that, because I do think that social media tells the story that this can happen at like the drop of a dime, and it just doesn't happen that way.
Not at all.
We don't have the clarity. You don't have the tools. You just don't have it. So it takes time to get it. In one of your recent YouTube videos, you mentioned that you were going to law school and then God called you to preach.
Yeah.
And so you talk about how this was a little bit scary to you at the time. Has God given you other revelations in your career that have also been so pivotal? Like you chose not to go to law school and to preach. Yeah. So can you give other examples of where this has happened?
Yeah. I can give an example. For example, when I finally went to Vanderbilt Divinity School and I graduated and I started pastoring and then God impressed upon me to go and get my doctorate. And that was a little scary because I had to do my doctorate at an Ivy League school at Princeton while pastoring. So I was commuting back and forth. Ooh. Yeah. It was, but it was a pivotal moment because I could have been, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm pastoring, I'm growing this church, but I recognized that God was leading me to do that for something else. And that was to increase my scale and my reach. So once I accomplished that, it opened up other doors for other things I was trying to do. For example, the boards I serve on, university boards, or doing university commencements, and being able to teach at universities and lecture, and then even the writing, and it gave greater credibility to the writings that I had done because it came out of that space. And so God never has led me into this without showing me it was going to impact that, right? And so everything led to another thing.
How do you hear God?
A variety of ways. A variety of ways. I heard God's voice twice in my life audibly. Scared me. I remember, it's clear as day. Once when I was 27, 28 years old, my son was growing like crazy back then. And I remember having this moment with God at the altar. I said, God, I'm young, I'm just, God, man, we're doing it. This is awesome, Lord. Thank you. And God was like, I heard his voice. I'm telling you. He says, you're insignificant to the process. This is for my glory. So, whoa. You talk about humbling. I've heard his voice twice. And I have heard God speak to me, that still small voice, that unction that I've known with great clarity. It is that voice. I'll give you an example how people who are watching this today probably have heard the voice of God this way and didn't realize that's what it was. You've been at a stop sign. Yeah. And you said, something said, don't go that way. Yeah. Something said, go this way. And you just, okay. Or something said, stop. And a car went by. And what was that? It's the voice of God. It's just we have a difficult time interpreting that voice. You only interpret the voice of God based on your relationship with God. My sheep know my voice, a stranger they will not follow. So if, for example, when you call Rain, Rain knows your voice. She does. No matter who's in the room. She knows her mother. She knows her daddy's voice, right? Because of the relationship. Yeah. Now, if I say, Rain, she won't know my voice unless I build relationship. And eventually she'll say, oh yeah, that's Bishop. Eventually, as she ages. So the distance in our relationship with God has to be, I think, shortened. Yeah. And we have to come into a place of intimacy that his voice gains greater clarity. Because without that, there's so many other competing voices. It's hard for us to really hear his voice clearly. It's not that he's not speaking. Something wrong with the signal. Yeah. Well, I'm in awe of that because it's definitely deep. And I definitely wanted to ask you that because I think a lot of people don't ask that direct question of how do you hear God? Yeah. And so that's a great explanation of it because it is about building a relationship. And then there are ebbs and flows with spirituality. Yeah. People can grow up, like I told you, I grew up Church of Christ and then I met Alex and then we had to figure out over our 13-year journey of our relationship and marriage where we wanted to go to church. And so we had our own spiritual journeys. What do you say to somebody who is trying to figure out their spiritual journey? Because I grew up very devout Church of Christ and we talked about like what a straight-laced environment that was. And almost to the point where when I got to college, I was like, I'm just so unsure of
of this, how I grew up, this just it's too much.
Sure.
So how do I navigate these waters? And I remember taking Religions of Abraham in college and just like learning a whole nother way, and then visiting churches in Memphis. Part of my scholarship program, I went to a Catholic church with one of my roommates because we had to experience other people's spiritual environments. And so a lot of times when people are going to college, they are being exposed to a myriad of these different voices that you've described. The good voices, the bad voices, just all of it. And they're trying to create these relationships. So what do you say to somebody who is on that spiritual journey, but is just not quite in sync all the way?
I get it completely. As you know, our ministry, Mount Zion, reaches more college students than I think any church in America. That's one of the things that we're very excited about, because we know that that's a pivotal stage for at 18 to 21. It's like, and they're away from home and all those voices. I think that the critical thing about finding that sweet spot in terms of church, family, etc., is what promotes relationship over religion. Because if relationship is over religion, then relationship will be over rules. If rules are over relationship, then that's a little scary. Rules say you can't sit here. Relationship says you can. Rules say you can't do that, everything thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Relationship says, come as you are. We catch fish before we clean them. This is a journey, a process. It is a place of hope. It is a non-judgmental place. It is a place where I can mature and grow, flaws and all. And that I can feel a sense of community. And I think clarity of the word, one of the things that I'm an advocate of is teaching the word of God didactically. In my congregation, I take people on a journey every year. You listen to the series that I preach, and I'm taking you on a didactic journey that you can look back in December to January and say, we did this, that, and look what we've come. And it can't be random. It must be intentional. And so I think when families, individuals are trying to figure out that sweet spot, always go for relationship over rules, over religion.
And I'm glad I finally figured that out, but I will credit my husband a lot to helping me figure out that journey, because I had come from such a legalistic background when it comes to religion that it kind of threw me when I got out into the real world. As much as they might have thought it was prepping me, I feel like it threw me into the real world. So
I tell people all the time, if you find the perfect church, don't join it, because you're going to mess it up.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Well, I did not know that Mount Zion was home to the most college students. Congratulations. That's awesome. We're humbled by it. Because I mean, kids are trying to figure out, I call them kids, they're adults. They're trying to figure out if they even want to go to college in this environment.
They are rushed. And it's so crazy. We bus in, we have 12 campuses in this area that we reach. We bus in from 7 campuses. They fill the buses. They're putting it on Instagram, Facebook, their journey. I walk on the campus. These kids are walking to me crying, talking about how the ministry has blessed them. And these are young kids. It's amazing, right? And it's just really about building that relationship, and I know them. I go on campus, they know me, I know them, I know their name, I ask them. It's just
of course about you do, because you know everybody.
Well, I do focus on relationship. I'm a very relational person. So.
You are a very relational person. But speaking of education, you're highly educated, and I'm reading off all of your degrees.
Oh gosh.
You have received a Bachelor of Arts degree from Southern University in Baton Rouge, a Master of Divinity from Vanderbilt, Doctor of Ministry from Princeton Theological Seminary. You have 3 honorary doctorates from Meharry Medical College, Southern University, and Kentucky State University. Has education landed you in the position that you're in today?
Well, it definitely has played a significant role in opening up doors that would not be open. I think that I'm an advocate of education. It's clear in our ministry that that's a focus of ours. It's clear in my social media that it's a focus. And being in this city, in the epicenter, the Athens of the South, so many bright minds. I think it has created an opportunity for me, I think, to be taken seriously on a variety of different platforms and spaces. I think that often when people who do what I do show up, I think there's kind of a people presuppose certain things that only you can talk about this, you can't talk about that. But it's allowed me to speak intelligibly about a variety of different genres and experiences, whether it's business, whether it's music, whether it's literature, whether it's whatever. I'm an unapologetic nerd. And so whatever the subject matter is, we can go down that street and we can have an intelligent conversation. And the other thing for me is that I recognize that I represent a great people, okay?
Yeah.
Not only African Americans who've done extraordinary things, particularly in Nashville historically and what that meant. Our church, founded in 1866, the year of Reconstruction in America, and all that was going on then with the incredible, resurgence of intellectualism and, entrepreneurship. From that history, and even now looking at, the director of schools goes to our church, judges and incredible people who are doing amazing things in this community, right? And so I felt like if I'm going to be a spiritual leader, I'm not only a spiritual leader, I'm a community leader. So when you look at your pastor, you want to say, that's my pastor.
Absolutely.
Not like, I don't know who that is. I just kind of show up there on Sunday,
Yeah. Right.
And I try to challenge other, and I want to challenge other younger leaders to say, look, charisma is one thing. But charisma is going to keep you just in that church building. Nobody's going to call you to the real meetings. Nobody's going to bring you to the table.
Yeah.
Go to school. Strengthen your stakes, expand your territory, and you'll get called in the rooms and be taken seriously. Yeah.
I agree. I love that. I'm a proponent of education too. I love it.
Yeah.
We actually were just talking about that before you got here on if I'd go back to school. And I said, I'm never going to say never, because Dr. Sweet does sound good.
That does.
I just don't know yet.
You heard it right here first.
Which path. Yes, you heard it right here first.
I can see it.
But I think a lot of people are contemplating their education now because of the student loan crisis and because of affirmative action and all of these things that are swirling in the education realm. So what do you say to somebody that is trying to figure out whether they want to go to college, these high school kids, and even the ones who were already in college and decided not to go back to college, even people older in age?
Yeah, I would say no matter where you are in your life, there's no substitute for education. And there are too many avenues that you can access, whether it's virtual. There are too many ways in which you can go back that fit your life. These schools have adapted, they've adjusted. Major schools now allowing online programs, getting master's degrees at home, a variety of different things. And so whatever fits your life, do something, because you don't want to be that person that's just one-dimensional. You get typeset, and that's all people recognize you as.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I definitely think education has landed me where I am today. I don't think I'd be here if I didn't go through my undergrad program and also go get my MBA too.
Yeah.
So you were pastoring Mount Zion when you had 175 people. And today you have multiple campuses, over 30,000 people, and your footprint has just spread I'm not even going to call it a footprint. It is a data cloud that you have managed to walk into on social media. And like you said, just making yourself accessible on the internet. You don't have to necessarily step foot into one of the Mount Zion campuses. You can also get the word on the internet.
Right.
So did you ever imagine that Mount Zion would be where it is when you started with 175 people?
Initially, no. I really honestly felt that Mount Zion was going to be a stepping stone for me to my next assignment. And again, God has a sense of humor, right? God planted me in Nashville. And at that time, Nashville was nothing like it was now.
No,
Nashville was Mayberry. We went from Mayberry to the metropolis we have right now. It's like Andy Griffin and Barney going around the city. And here we are now with everybody rushing to Nashville, the Great Migration. Initially, no. I don't think. And again, I think this is how God does, right? He'll give you this vision, but he won't give it all to you because you don't have the capacity to handle everything that's going to happen. If God had told me at 24 years old, this is what was going to happen, I wouldn't have been able to handle that.
Yeah.
So he had to gradually show it to me. But I began to realize around 27, 28, that this was going to be something much bigger than I had imagined.
Were there any moments along the way where you just wanted to quit, where you felt overwhelmed with it? Yeah.
Several. Oh, yeah. Oh, several moments. Yeah. I remember them very, very vividly. One moment when, good old fashioned church business meeting early on in my pastorate, they almost ran me away. I was like, I don't need this. I can go home. My mama, my dad, I can go back to Shreveport, Right. And, but I had a group of folks again that surrounded me and prayed for me and encouraged me and there have been several moments. When you're growing, one of the things that's very interesting, and I think it's important for people who are on a trajectory of success to understand, is that when you grow and you reach a certain level, you're not necessarily taught how to deal with the level of adversity that comes with it. Mm-hmm. So you interpret that as, everybody's against me. And you automatically focus so much on all the negativity. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, how do people... these people don't even know me. Why don't they like me? Because people are afraid of growth. Growth scares people. I had to really study that, Jasmine. I really did. I had to really do a deep, here I am being a nerd. Mm-hmm. Why do people fear growth? Mm-hmm. And then it hit me. I thought about when the children of Israel were incarcerated in Egypt. The Bible says they were incarcerated because there rose up a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph. Now, Joseph was their patriarch who brought them into Egypt, and then they start multiplying. Mm-hmm. And then the new Pharaoh looked out and said, they're getting too big. Yeah. They might overtake us. And so when people fear growth, the thing is to incarcerate you or to limit you. Mm-hmm. It's the law of the lid. We can only take you as long as you go this far. If you ever exceed this, then we got to do something with you. And so I had to manage that because I've never been the kind of person to allow people to limit my vision. I've always gone from glory to glory with God. Take me higher. I've never gotten complacent. And so when you're on a trajectory like you are, you think big. Yeah. And you're like, why are people looking at me crazy? Because I believe I can do this.
Oh, I'm there right now.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what happens, you have to surround yourself with people who understand that.
Absolutely.
And when people who have been there can help you understand that. I've got some mentors, I'm sure we'll get to that. Yes. That help me navigate these spaces. I realize, okay, I'm not crazy, then I get it.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you said that because it definitely makes you think that you are crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because everybody else think I'm crazy. So am I really crazy?
No, I feel like that all the time. Yeah. I think Alex is probably one of the only people that doesn't think I'm crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you can imagine, I'm a church growing in Nashville. I'm like, let's do another location. Listen, he's trying to franchise the church like McDonald's.
And it's like, no, but you didn't hear the vision. You didn't hear the vision, or you also don't see the vision.
Don't see the vision. Yeah. We went on virtual. We went at Mount Zion Anywhere was an online community. 7 years we started it before the pandemic. I read around the country talking to pastors. Man, I don't know. If you thought a virtual campus, they may not come to the physical church. I say, man, you have to online presence. This is when YouTube is really kicking up. Right. You should get on YouTube, Facebook. Yeah. I don't want to do it. So we started it. Mount Zion Anywhere, 7 years. We perfected it. Pandemic comes, and it's a natural progression for us. We just do what we've always done. Everybody else panicking. What do we do? Yeah. Putting up tripods and having service, with the camera not right, because they don't know what to do. It's crazy. In the kitchen, with all kind of stuff, no back. What is this? Because people did not. Because everybody embraced it because it's survival now. Oh, now we got to be online. I'm like, we tried to tell you
a long time ago that
future belongs to those who are open to positive change.
Absolutely. That is such a great example because everybody literally was scrambling.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it really was the end of the world.
Yeah. I didn't know what to do. I'm like,
it's not that hard. Yes. Just get started. But it's funny because you say, you said the lid. What was it again? You said
the law of the lid.
The law of the lid. Yeah. I've never heard the law of the lid. Yeah. But I definitely think that speaks to my life because I am right now at a place where I am doing entrepreneurship and corporate. And I have faced the glass ceiling, especially since becoming a mom. Yeah. It very much so exists. And I was first introduced to the glass ceiling in my scholarship program at the University of Memphis. And I remember being 18 thinking to myself, what is a glass ceiling? I just never even thought that these limits exist.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And now that I've been doing corporate marketing for 10 years, I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like I'm here.
It'll hit you. Yeah.
Yes.
It'll hit you.
But the way my mind thinks, I don't even acknowledge that this glass ceiling exists. So I'm in that phase of crazy where people are like, you did what now? You started a show? Like, what's that? What kind of sense does that make?
And you know what happens, I think, for a lot of people, and I see it. I studied you. Mm-hmm.
You studied me?
I did. I did.
I'm in awe.
I did. I would never come on the show without studying.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I've concluded about you and your success, and I think where you are, and I think where a lot of people watching are, is that there's a moment when you're young and you go down you're a millennial, and you come down this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the path I'm supposed to take. You get into corporate, you go into space, but corporate is incredibly transactional.
It is.
It's transactional. And then you come to a place, there's something passionate burning inside of you. This is the glass ceiling. You realize, okay, why am I experiencing resistance? Or why am I not? Everybody's telling me I should be like completely happy. Look at my life, I'm there. You're like, but something else is pushing me. It's because you're not called to that which is transactional. You're called to that which is transformational.
I'm there.
If it doesn't transform the lives of people, it doesn't make sense to you.
It doesn't.
Transactional relationships are like this for that, that for that. That is such a turnoff at a moment when I can do something that's going to impact culture, impact lives, tell my story and translate my story to other moms, other parents, other people, other entrepreneurs. Now that is counterintuitive to people who only understand life from a transactional perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it hits from multiple different people. I was at my uncle's funeral a few weeks ago, and one of my cousins said, so are you working?
What you doing now?
Exactly.
Same thing happened to Steph.
I'm like, what?
Same thing happened to Steph. Steph, my wife, Harvard trained. She was on faculty at Harvard, the physician, living the life, doing it at Vanderbilt. I'm retiring. I want to do something
different, something impactful.
Something more impactful. So she took on beauty counter. She done, and then now the kids and being we're telling our story. It's because there comes a moment. Okay, I'll say it this way. We live our lives for our resume, but we should live our lives for our eulogy.
I agree. And I'm there for sure because I lost a parent early too. My dad passed away at 27 and he had a construction company and he had a music promotion company, and he pretty much used his construction company to take care of my mom and 5 kids, but also to fund his dream of doing music production. And so he went to his grave at 63 years old. I think he died trying. And I think a lot of our parents also, especially Black people, a lot of our parents died trying to achieve. Yeah, like I look at even my in-laws now, they're still working and they're in their 60-somethings and they're working jobs, I would say, not necessarily like what they would want to do with their lives. And so I do think that we have to reframe what that looks like and start doing the things we want to do. For me, I was like, I am no longer going to be on this journey of doing for other people. I'm good at it. I'm good at it. I have made strong impacts in corporate America. And I think I got laid off in February. And it's funny because I'd already been talking to Erin, the owner of Cast Collective, about doing my show. And I called her literally like the next day and I was like, it's time. Like, I don't even, I have no tears to cry. I'm not upset about this. I feel I'm crazy enough to do this at this point. So I just feel like that was another reason why I framed all of the episodes to be around that. I wanted people to see this pivotal shift in people's lives. I wanted people who are highly successful to be able to show that, hey, I had this vision, but I didn't know what it looked like. But I went for it anyways. And I wasn't waiting around for the pandemic to show me what I could do when it was time to really show up for the world.
You wake up every day. The greatest feeling in life is to wake up every day, not going to a job, but going to purpose. No, I agree. And now that, I don't know, motherhood does something to you too.
And it changes you tremendously. I think for me, I've experienced, like, I say this all the time. I was at my dad's bedside when he passed away, and I've experienced that transition, but I've also given birth now.
Yeah.
So I think the two transitions, and at the time I was mad at God when I was 27, and I'm like, why do I have to deal with this? Most people don't have to bury their parents till they're 50 years old. Like, I'm 27. I'm like, getting married in 6 months. What's going on, baby Jesus? So for me, I was really struggling, grappling with that at the time.
Of course,
but now I'm like, it all made sense.
Yeah.
It all made sense for me to have to process all of this. And then now I'm a mom.
Yeah.
And gave birth on the day that we buried him. And I probably say that every episode.
Yeah.
But it is kind of wild that she waited. I was in the hospital for 3 days and she waited. Yeah. And to me, that's how I heard God.
Yeah.
I'm like, in that moment, and she came at 2:02 in the morning. I'm like, okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's no way a human can do any of this.
No.
Like, yeah. So anyways, we could stay on those topics all night, but I want to know what your process is for preparing your Sunday message. Do you also hear a word from God before you prepare your Sunday message?
Absolutely. I do hear from God. It's a process of consecration where I'm separated and I'm kind of in a space where I'm like really hearing from God, but God does something different with me. God allows me to write my messages prophetically, meaning I do series teaching, right? And so my series are often given to me months before I preach them. So I'm writing messages, for example, in 1 month. It could be September, but I don't preach it until December. So I'm always 3 to 4 months ahead of myself. And what's interesting when I say it's prophetic, God will give me a message, I'll write it, I'll put it in the can, wait on it, sit on it, and then it's time to preach it. It's clear. It's very clear what I'm supposed to preach. It's second Sunday, December. It's very clear. I know what the series is. I know the message. The moment I preach it, something in the world is happening that aligns with that word. And I'm like, God, you're blowing my mind now.
It was right on time.
I've seen it a million times. Oh, yeah. And I've seen instance after instance where that's worked. So my process is that consecration moment, separation, and then real prophetic, locked in, zoned in. People see me at Starbucks a lot, and I'm like really zoned in on that preparation.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting how you align it with timing. It's like, it's not your time, it's God's time, but the message comes to you and then you sit on it.
Sit on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love that. As a faith leader, do you ever experience imposter syndrome where we talked about it before we even started this interview a little bit with you saying that you still get nervous. But do you ever experience imposter syndrome? Like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Maybe I shouldn't deliver this message. Maybe why me?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. I think we all do to some extent. I was able to overcome that, I think, through recognizing that I had to walk in like God sent me. And stop walking in like I sent myself. I walk in with confidence like God sent me here, and this is what I have to do. And I have to not take it as though it's my intellectual property. It is a spiritual thing that God, I'm a mailman. I have to deliver this. And so I was taking myself too seriously in the process. And so whatever room I'm in, I feel like God sent me. Whatever door opens, I feel like he opened it. And whatever chair I'm sitting in, I feel like God put me there. And so I walk in there with confidence, not confidence in arrogance, but confidence in humility and confidence in the sense of God provided this opportunity for his glory, not for my glory. And so I just give it all.
Do you still sense that naysayers are around, even with where you are now? Do you still sense that people are like, what is he doing?
What?
Yeah.
Girl, yeah. Dogs don't bark at parked cars.
Yeah.
Right? When you're moving, it's always going to be more highs, more eyes. And I think that people will always be naysayers. That people will pick at anything. You know, you can do so much good. People will find something wrong in the good. You have to just continue to be not weary and well doing.
Yeah, you posted a message not long ago about that. I want to say last week, and I reshared it because I was like, yes, you can keep doing for people over and over again.
That one thing you don't do,
And then the one no, it's like you never said yes. So, how do you navigate the low seasons of your life?
So it's interesting. You raised that, and I'll be very transparent here. The low seasons happen. I had to first of all understand why I was experiencing low seasons after I would minister. It was interesting. Like I have this incredible high preaching, and then I'd go into this incredible low space afterwards. I didn't understand it. And
like after you got done preaching on Sundays.
And I began to do a little research, and I found out it was not uncommon for people, athletes or entertainers or whatever. Often you exude that kind of energy. And I think the dichotomy of that reality is that it's like, I don't know if it's a sugar high and you just fall into this place of a sugar low. I don't know. And I'm saying that jokingly, but I think I had to navigate the fact that you pour out so much and you're on your A game, and then you fall back into your own humanity and you realize, wait a minute, I need to be poured into too.
Yeah.
You see, and so Steph, my wife, she does a good job of doing that and giving me space to work through that. And so I typically try to find outlets to do things that I really enjoy doing. So I enjoy working out. I enjoy athletics. I enjoy, spending time with my kids and that kind of thing. So just, you'll find me on Mondays doing no work. I'm like completely like not doing, I'm like, no, I'm just going to really pour into myself and do that because Sundays is so demanding. And so I try to do that. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you bring up that correlation, because a lot of times, even if you don't have big roles like pastoring a church or being an athlete, I heard Oprah describe her going to see Beyonce as just an experience where she was like, Beyonce has a certain synergy about her, because there's no way you can get on stage every night and do that. Yeah, so it is an interesting thought, because that I don't think a lot of people think about.
You don't think about it, and I'll say this carefully. And then you think about what Beyonce's life is like. For example, she finishes that. I watched it happen in real time in Nashville. I saw it with my own eyes because I had a little access, granted. Yeah. And but as soon as she finished that concert, she was in the car in 2 minutes, headed in the entourage, out of the stadium, get on the plane, on the plane in 20 minutes, in the air. Like, it's this departure. It's like, I do what I do, and I have to go and do me quick. If I don't do me quick, I'm going to crash. And that's this idea of, it's a lot. People don't realize that that's a person. Yeah. I have a book called Leadership and Loneliness. And I talk about how often we focus so much on our doing and we are measured by our doing. And people, what are you doing? What are you doing? How you doing? What did I do? And sometimes we mask our being behind our doing. And so we continue to do. But God did not make us human doings. He made us human beings. Yeah. So we look at people like pastors and entertainers, and we see the personality and we miss the person. Like, my name is Joseph. Right. I'm Bishop Walker.
To a lot of people.
But I'm Joseph. And the Joseph is the one that's crying out for normalcy. It's crying out for authentic friendships. And when you walk into spaces, in every relationship, for the most part, not all, it's hierarchical from the very beginning. You're Bishop Walker. You change atmospheres when you walk in. Everybody puts their drinks up. Everybody's, I'm sorry, Bishop. Like, no, be yourself. Right. If that's what you normally do, I'm cool with it. Yeah. Do you? Because I'm going to do me. Right. But they can't handle me doing me because they have a presupposed idea of what I should be based on their own historical understanding of what I do. So pastors shouldn't do that. So if you do that, that's a disconnect. So then I'm no longer comfortable around you. You get it?
I see you as a person.
Yes.
That is why I asked you to come on the show. Yes. And it's funny because I even told them before you got here. And then when they were asking if I knew you, I was like, I feel like I do, because I see him as as a person. Like I've watched you talk about even your journey to have children and just all of that. Like,
but human being.
A human being. And then you came here and you just dropped off the kids. I was meeting with the community fund of Middle Tennessee last week, and they told me that,
my people.
Kelly P, she told me that you had a fund there, and she was like, I was talking to him one day and he was dropping the kids off, and like he was on a conference call with us, and it's very normal, but you have to be normal in order to be able to deliver that sort of output.
That's exactly right.
So and it is hard sometimes, because I will say even I experience that exchange where it's more draining sometimes to keep pouring out, and then people don't pour in, especially when you're doing something to this magnitude, because it's already in your head, it's crazy. But you know you're supposed to be doing it. And then everybody around you thinks it's crazy too. But somehow they still admire what you're doing.
They make assumptions that you don't need anything.
Yes. It's the strong friend saying.
Yeah, the strong friends. Yeah. Our relationship, I have a very, very, very good relationship, and I'm very honored by it with Oprah, right? People know that. And what does Oprah need, right? Well, I tell you one thing that she appreciates.
True friend.
Every Sunday, she waits for me to send her the Sunday message, and she watches it. And when I forget to send it, I'm busy, I get a message like, I ain't got what my message.
Right.
She listens to it while she hikes. People, they need a kind word. They need to be seen as a human being. And when you have those relationships, you got to be one of the few people in a person's life who doesn't ask them for anything.
Yeah.
See, I pick up my phone, Jasmine, and if 90% of the text messages and calls are, can you, will you? How many people just text and say, how you doing? Who's pouring?
I feel that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody wants something.
Everybody wants
Who's
something.
pouring into you? And so I feel like, look, if it doesn't, you look through your phone and ask this question. Maybe every person say, who in my list of contacts need me? And who in my list of contacts feed me?
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
Okay, y'all heard it. Who needs me
and who feeds me? Boom.
Yes, period. Because, we have to re-examine our circles completely. Yes, because
it's a big deal.
It is a huge deal.
Big deal.
It's something to talk about, for sure. Who's your spiritual leader? And who do you look to for guidance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Bishop Paul Morton, who is the founder of the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship, now singularly kind of serves as that for me. My pastor passed away in COVID in Shreveport. So Bishop Morton assumed that role. I have a trifecta of mentor, spiritual kind of leadership relationship. It's a trifecta. And it's Bishop Morton, it's Bishop Jakes, and it's Oprah. And those are the three people I talk to when I need advice, when I need, and the funny thing about it, it's an exchange. It's because they'll do the same thing to me. I'm like, you calling me for advice? What? What I'm gonna tell you? You know? But you realize that it's like a level of trust in that relationship. How long have you known Oprah? Oh man, so it's been probably over 15 years now. But the relationship, I think, cemented really closely. I think after her father's passing, we knew each other really before that, but I think I did her father's eulogy and just really cemented then, and we talk often. So I love that. I love that you have that relationship with her, and then that you guys understand each other, because I know you understand each other on that level of being able to spiritually ground yourself while also trying to help a myriad of people. So, and dealing with what she deals with. Everybody deals with it at that level. I'm like, man, people. She has such a heart of gold. She does so many extraordinary things, but again, no good deed does not go unpunished, right? Everything you do, somebody's gonna have something to say. You just keep doing it though.
Yeah. I am reading Lovey. I can't remember her last name, but she just wrote a book called The Professional Troublemaker. And she talks about how confident Oprah was to put herself on her own magazine for decades now. And it's like, people probably also thought she was crazy, but she had this calling and this confidence to actually make it happen. And so it's just really interesting to see and experience that type of just self-confidence exude itself. So I love Oprah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You just tell her. I love her.
I got it.
Your next text message this Sunday needs to be Jasmine Sweet loves Oprah.
I got it.
I literally grew up watching Oprah. My mom is she was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And I stayed home with her. I didn't go to daycare. And we watched Oprah every day.
Yeah, she touched so many lives, man.
Yeah, she did. And if she never did what she does. I said she did as if it's gone. But she's still here and will forever touch lives. But if she never fulfilled her calling, we also wouldn't be able to experience the energy. So in this day and age, people can be skeptical of megachurch environments.
Absolutely.
So what do you say to anybody who's just curious or just having that skepticism of the megachurch?
Yeah, the church is not monolithic. Don't generalize. Don't, I think that if you say those mega churches, then don't get mad when people say those black people.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't get mad.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, those black people. I'm not like, well, you just generalize the mega church. Every mega church is not the same.
Yeah.
It's good, bad, ugly at all. Churches, whatever size. I do understand.
Yeah.
Some
people are people.
People are people. I understand some of the legitimate concerns people have with that. I think you have to have your own personal experience. And I walk in a room sometimes. And the funny thing with me is I can sit up in a coffee shop, have a whole conversation with somebody for like an hour, talk to them, never tell them what I do. Then I'll invite them to church. You should come to my church. I think you'll like it. And they're like, I might do that. I've been, check it out. And I've had people come to my church without knowing I was the pastor. And they get there and they see me. They're like, you were the pastor the whole time.
And you didn't say anything.
Exactly. Yep. Because I want them to have an authentic relationship and experience. They're like, wow, you're pretty cool. This is who I am. And so don't come with this assumption that mega church leaders, have to have 50 people around them all the time. And it's always about this, always about that. Look at each church individually and decide. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think shows like Greenleaf or just other shows.
Gosh,
but we have to separate the fact that those are shows.
Yeah,
versus,
man. Yeah.
And it does happen.
It can happen.
It can happen in any institution.
It can happen in any. It can happen in any institution, and I think it's important to just be mature enough about those decisions.
Did you watch Greenleaf?
I did. I watched a few episodes. I found it comical.
Oh yeah, it was funny. Yeah. I think too because a lot of it was so Memphis based.
Oh God, yeah. Memphis can't get a break, huh?
I know. You know what is so crazy about Memphis? People think it's the wildest place in the world. Yeah. But it is such a rich city. Yeah. The food and the culture.
So
and
much
just all of it. Aaron's from Memphis and Sean's from Memphis. And it's always interesting because when I'm watching movies, they touch base in Memphis. Yeah. Like I was just watching Teal and they talk about Memphis. It's like a lot of shows use Memphis as like
gatekeeper.
As a mecca. So I'm like, I foresee Memphis like somehow just proving everybody wrong.
Yeah, you got I think I think it was that what's that show that police show that messed it all up for everybody in Memphis.
I can't.
First 48.
Yeah, First 48.
It just messed it up. Yeah.
Well, I lived in Louisville for a little bit, and they filmed First 48 in Louisville too. And I was told they stopped filming there because it started to mess with tourism.
It does, man. It has a huge impact on tourism. Those shows. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to going back to Memphis and eating at Huey's because I get the cheese fries and rendezvous and going to the Grizzlies games. So all of it. I'm like. Sometimes I wish they would move the Grizzlies to Nashville so I don't have to drive down there, but Memphis needs it.
Speak it. No, just
I know, but maybe we'll get another basketball team. Who knows? I think Tennessee can handle too.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, you're a best-selling author of 13 books. So I have to ask you, which one is your most prized literary work?
Wow. That's like, looking at your children and saying, which one? I think the one that has... impacted most recently people's lives is Leadership and Loneliness, my latest book, because it's probably the most transparent work I've written. about leadership and about being honest, about being misunderstood. The book I talk about, where can a goldfish go in a fishbowl and be hidden? Like, you're gonna be seen. How do you navigate when your life is ripe for public consumption? And everybody's judging you on this and that, what you're wearing, how you doing this, what you're posting. You're like, gosh, can I catch a break? And the loneliness that leaders experience pre-pandemic exacerbated by a pandemic. And therefore you create more loneliness. And how do you work through that mentally, knowing that you have to continuously lead people and navigate them through a pandemic, and then reconcile your own issues of loneliness, doing it simultaneously. And so, I think that book.
Do you think social media isolates people further?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
In what ways?
So I think, obviously the myth of it all, the myth and the man, the myth and the lady, like, I see you on social media. I see how wonderful. I never thought I would in a million years get a chance to meet you. The isolation. Now, on the one hand, it's intended to humanize you. It is, but sometimes it can celebritize you. And if it celebritizes you, then that does the same thing television did. It does the same thing, being in that world of, of leadership and elevation does. It creates this aura of people feel, I can't access this person, or they tremble when they're around you, or they, when people found out that I actually like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You what? You eat peanut butter and jelly?
Yes.
You go to this restaurant and eat, Bishop? You want sweet tea? Yeah, bro. Yeah, like for real. Like yeah. And so they don't get it, and so you have to like be very intentional about being transparent in social media.
But can you be too transparent on social media? Because I do think social media also fosters an environment of, oh, well, let's all be real. And me personally, I don't feel like I owe the internet that.
You do not. So I look at it spiritually. I do not put my personal stuff out in a place where all those spirits can attach to it. So I have to have certain boundaries, certain rules of engagement in social media. So I know how to be transparent to a moment. Like, there's a moment I'm going to be open, but I'm going to stop. And I'm not going to go that far. Some people just, they post these long posts about their own situations. It's like cathartic for them. It's therapy, but that's the worst place to do it.
No, I agree. And I'm glad you said that because I often feel that way, especially being an influencer where everyone wants you to kind of participate in that. I actually met a group of influencers I was on a trip with. We were working for Procter & Gamble, and we've stayed in touch, and we were having a conference called Powwow on Friday night. Catching up, and each one was like, well, you should do this and you should do that and you should use rain. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to use rain because I'm not going to sell my soul for the sake of the internet. I'm not going to use rain in that capacity. I let her do one modeling shoot for a friend. But she had 30 minutes. But it was not one of these situations where I'm going to use my child for gain on the internet.
I've seen it though.
But I have seen it done too. And I think I have a hard time existing in the influencer space sometimes because of that. Because of what I'm not willing to do.
Understood.
I was talking to a friend the other day and I said, it's funny because if I were one of the YouTubers that posted about all the things me and Alex encounter versus watch this episode of the fish gymnastics coach and how she's taken the team to new heights. It's like the video of me and Alex, our encounters would be much more, I guess, interesting for people to watch because people crave the drama.
They crave the drama, you have to create your own narrative. You have to be consistent in creating that narrative for good.
And that's also why I created the Sweet House, is to provide people with better context of life. I'm like, the internet needs more of this.
We need positive content.
Yes, we need more of this versus just what you need to buy, what you need to eat, and you need to lose weight today, and all these things. I'm like, we need more context of how to handle life. So that is why I invite you guys to the Sweet House for good conversations like this. Do you have business endeavors outside of pastoring?
Oh yeah, I do. I do, and I don't talk much about them because I'm very, private about that. But I do, and a few things that I'm doing in real estate, a few things I'm doing personally, and I mentor other business owners in that space. And so, I do.
Speaking of mentors, I know you talked about your spiritual leaders. Do you have a separate group of people or person that you look to for mentorship?
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, like I said, I think Oprah is probably at the top of the food chain with that, because I've had decisions where I've had to make. I've had the opportunities come. I remember she came to TSU graduation. We were sitting next to each other. I remember her like giving me like this 5-minute spiel on why not to do something that was that everybody else would have said. Like 99 people out of 100 would have said, "You're crazy not to do that." And she told me, "Don't do it." Don't.
In her Oprah voice.
Yes. And I remember that like yesterday. And so, yeah, I think her as a judge who's a mentor of mine, I look up to, and another business person around the country who does extraordinary things that I look up to.
Was it hard for you to find good mentors?
For me, no, because I knew exactly what I was looking for, and I engaged those relationships. You know, I was very clear about the trajectory and the exposure that I wanted. And I was like, I want somebody that's in the stratosphere. I don't want anybody who's just like, I want somebody that's done it, been there, give me the truth, and somebody who can unapologetically tell me the truth.
When you are, to the average person looking for a mentor, so that you can provide that same synergy that we've talked about of not draining somebody, but you also come into the table with something.
Yeah.
How should one find a mentor? I mean, when is a good time for somebody to find a mentor? What if they don't have anything to come to the table with?
I think it's important. Well, that's problematic because I think you should always be in a position where you are preparing yourself to bring something to the table, an idea, a vision, a passion that can be shaped. That passion I talked about earlier is something to bring to the table. Yeah, that needs to be shaped. So I think that what's important is to look at somebody. First of all, don't limit yourself to a person that's in your same career. We often think, I need a mentor, and if I'm going to be an accountant, I need a great accountant to be. No, sometimes find somebody who does business or who does things in different places. Right. And I think that's important. And I think also find someone who has influence that can connect you into spaces and rooms you've never been. My mentors would often say, I'd be at restaurants, now that's so-and-so. And when we get up, I'm going to introduce you. You need those kind of relationships. Yeah. Relationship capital.
Yes. Or people who are going to speak your name in rooms that you've not even stepped foot in.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So you and Ricky Smiley are best friends. And I met Ricky in Cincinnati at the P&G Music Festival, Cincinnati Music Festival. And he spoke so highly of you. He said, every time I go to Nashville, I stay at his house and I'm his kid's godfather. And just all of that. How did you guys meet?
Man, Ricky and I met several years back. That's been over 20 years now. And I did a Greek show. And it was about fundraising for scholarships, and Ricky and I stepped together. Yeah. And it was pretty cool. And so from there, we just grew a relationship. And then when my first wife was passing away with cancer and I was at the hospital, he had finished the show. This is cemented I knew then this is my best friend in the whole world. I was in the hospital alone in the waiting room. I had fallen asleep. It was 2 a.m, I think. And he had finished the show in some other city, caught a private plane, and came to the hospial. And I just smelled donuts behind me. He had brought donuts at 2 a.m. behind me and waking me up saying, "Bro, wake up." And it's crazy.
I can hear that.
And we stayed up all morning. And we stayed up all morning, and he just stood there with me and sat there with me, and we just,
He is good energy. And
everywhere.
All the time. And I can see why he's been able to grow his radio show to like, people were up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to see him in Cincinnati. So I was like,
he's the voice of Black America, that's for sure.
He is the voice of Black America. And when people say radio is dying, I'm like, well, the personalities are not.
Yeah, you better believe that.
He is still thriving. He is thriving. So I love that you guys have a friendship with him being in media and covering pop culture and just all the things and not being afraid to have those conversations. Correct. But then you also being in ministry. And so you wouldn't think necessarily traditionally, like we talked about, because people don't put those two together. Right. But I love that you guys have been able to foster a friendship and like remain in each other's lives to that degree.
And a real blessing.
It is. Yeah. It's such a blessing. So when is Ricky coming back to Nashville?
A couple of weeks, I think. He'll be back, I think, in September. He's doing a live show here. This morning show, I think, will air from here, so it'll be cool. Because he's going to Nashville now, so yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you guys get a chance, you have to go see him live.
It's nothing like it.
It is nothing like it. He invited us up on stage, and we all did the Greek thing. And, well, I was actually the only Greek influencer, so knowing everyone else was like, "What are they doing?" I'm like, this is what we do.
So we do.
Calm
give
down.
us our space.
Give us our moment.
Yeah.
All the AKs in the audience stand up.
Yeah.
So, but I also wanted to ask you this question because you are Greek, Omega Sci-Fi, and so am I, and so is Ricky.
Yeah.
But I've also seen a lot of people, a couple of people that I went to college with, they are denouncing their affiliation with the Divine Nine. And so I'm curious, based on religion.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, because I guess I was talking to a friend the other day, she's a Delta, and I never thought of it in that way.
Yeah.
And so I just have a hard time identifying with it in that way, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think it's so it's very difficult for me often to watch people do that. Knowing, one, because I see myself as a trained theologian, and I think the rabbit hole they go down theologically is so in error that it's frightening that they would do that, because you have a lot of other things you'd have to denounce as well.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that I understand perhaps what their aim is that whenever a thing becomes an idol, then it has taken the place of God.
But aren't we in control of making it an idol?
And that is the point. And we're in control. And that is an individual decision. And I think that these organizations, as you well know, do so much good communally together, collectively together, that and that their mission was to come together to uplift the race and uplift their people. I think that far outweighs all these different negative things that may be happening. And so I honestly, I just I don't subscribe to that. I feel that
I don't think so, not on the basis of religion.
No.
Now, if you wanted to denounce on the basis that maybe something happened that you're aware of that you didn't want to participate in.
There you go.
Then yeah.
Yeah, it's not a religion. Exactly. But people do it on, because religion is always the easiest thing to do it on.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's somewhat of an attack on religion to a certain extent?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely something. It's a hot topic, and I've seen it a couple of times, even with people that I know.
Oh, for sure.
So I was like, I'm just curious to know what your thoughts were.
Yeah, no, that's wrong.
Around it. So you and Dr. Stephanie Walker, who is also incredible. Dr. Stephanie Walker is his wife, you guys. She is amazing. Like he said, has all this education as well. You guys are both parents. You are both working. She's doing beauty counter, and mom life is enough. I can attest to it. So how do you guys balance all of that on a daily basis? I know you did drop off this morning.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. For us, balance is all about, it's about intentionality. We talk about our schedule. We talk about, it's like air traffic control. What are we doing? We have to plan it. It's very intentional. And it's about boundaries. We literally set boundaries. I set boundaries in terms of work. My schedule, my team knows that from 8 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock, you got me. Whatever you want, whatever meeting, whatever. After 2 o'clock, I'm locked in on family. They know that. And so then my whole schedule has shifted. People know that. So it's just about boundaries, man. And when you do that, it becomes easy. When
boundaries versus balance, or boundaries?
Boundaries.
Okay.
Because see, it's really never going to be true balance. It's going to be juggling.
Yeah.
And everything you juggle, you have to touch.
Yeah, I'm a certified clown. I'm juggling all day.
But you can't juggle effectively unless you touch everything.
Yeah.
But you never really balance it.
Yeah.
It's just about ordered chaos. Some days
it is.
you're out of balance, but nothing's breaking.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to learn that becoming a parent. I feel like, especially because Alex and I waited so long to become parents, we were together for 10 years before we decided to have Rain. So I think we just had our synergy in our routine. And then throwing Rain in there, we've been like, okay, like family calendars now, and Rain has a calendar. She's had a birthday party every week. I already know.
That's how it is with our kids too. I'm like, man, your schedule, like Giovanni's schedule, Joseph's schedule, it's like, like we put our family schedule first before I start accepting engagements, before I plan the church calendar, family first.
Family first. I definitely love that. And I'm still balancing all of that too. I'm trying to learn how to shut my laptop at like 3 or 4 o'clock. I usually go get rain around 4.
Yeah.
So, but then sometimes after she goes to sleep, I open it back up.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to know how you I guess balance even marriage and make time for each other with kids. Cause I have one and I'm like, I have to make sure I schedule date nights.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. It really is hard. It's hard, particularly when you're tired, that parental tiredness, right? We talk about it all the time, that parental.
Yeah. You go out on the date and you're tired. Yeah. You're like, I'm drinking coffee on my dates now.
And we realize something. We're not those people that are going to start our date night at 7:30, 8 o'clock. No. We're going to go when the restaurant, 5, can you get
4
5?
o'clock.
Yeah. And we at 6 o'clock, we're good. Everybody else coming in, we like, we done. We going home.
Right.
We good.
Oh, I hired my nanny to come watch Rain a couple weeks ago. We went to dinner at 4:30.
Yeah.
And then we were back by 6 o'clock. She was like, y'all are back? I was like, yes, feel free to stay.
Yeah.
A little longer.
It changes everything. Yeah. So you have to just kind of get creative with that.
Yeah.
Get creative with daytime.
You definitely have to get creative. So you guys also have a new YouTube channel, Our Life, Our Journey, and Our Truth.
Yes.
And it is so real.
Thank you.
And just like watching the two of you is true teamwork.
Thank you.
And just your testimony to be able to do this all these years and to still maintain who you are as individuals, but also grow in your marriage and in parenthood is just a joy to watch.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing that with the world. Because a lot of pastors are not sharing on YouTube. A lot of people aren't sharing that sort of story on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's more than a makeup tutorial. It's more than like what you see on YouTube. I appreciate the storytelling. It's definitely real life.
Thank you.
What can you tell us about the show that we haven't seen thus far? Because you've talked about marriage a little bit, parenthood and balancing it. Like what's going to be something coming up that we got to tune in for?
Wow. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up, man. Listen, this one episode we're going to do about our IVF journey. That's going to be pretty deep.
Yeah.
Going through that journey together, what Stephanie had to endure, what I had to learn in the process, you know, those years of trying and it not happening and then realizing we had to go a different route. That is a very emotional, series for us. The one we're going to be honest about, conflict. How do you work through like those real, there's a level of conflict and there's like that argument where you like, you change. What's wrong with you?
I don't know you.
I don't know you no more. And that one, I think we just want to consistently push the envelope to let people know like, look, we deal with the same things you deal with in your marriage. And I think this idea that everything is rosy and peaches, every rose has thorns, man.
Yeah.
And you got to understand that.
And that's heavy to carry, to walk around pretending like it's all just like...
And we refuse to do it.
Yeah.
One thing I love about my wife, she says, I will not do this show if I can't be authentic.
Yeah.
I don't pretend well. I said, that's a fact.
Whose idea was it for the show?
It kind of came upon us together. We kind of realized from our book, Becoming a Couple of Destiny, that God brought us together for purposes greater than ourselves. And so we realized, well, how can we influence and mentor? Because so many couples, so many folks around the country want us to mentor and talk. And so let's do it from this platform. And boom, there it was.
Yeah. So that's a whole different layer of ministry that you've been able to tap into.
God be the
glory. YouTube ministry. I told y'all he was preaching to the choir and going beyond the pulpit. So we are making it happen out here. So what would you say is your number one marriage advice?
The number one marriage advice I would say is, do you want to be right or do you want to be married?
Married.
Do you want to be right or do you want to be married? And what I mean by that is we get so often caught up in this conversational ping pong that we're trying to score points. And at some point you're going to have to recognize it's not always about who's right or wrong. It's about us coming to a place of reconciliation and recognizing that we both could be wrong. We both can be right. We want to be married. So we're going to keep arguing, just trying to score points, or we're going to work through this together.
Yeah.
When you marry somebody, particularly when you're progressive and you have an A-type partner like you,
Yeah. And Alex and I are both extroverts too.
There you go.
And I was not apologetic. So that is a skill set I've had to learn. Because he is apologetic and I am not.
Yeah, somebody has to stand down.
So I'm not the one to stand down.
See? Yeah.
So we have had to learn how, and we're both so competitive. So I've had to learn how to just balance all of that out. But our synergy is good on most days. But we don't do board games together.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Because competitive stuff come out.
Yeah, I mean, we probably should because we got to learn how to do this.
That's right. That's right.
But I can't do Scrabble with him.
Oh, gosh.
Monopoly is a whole fight.
Oh, gosh.
One time I asked him if I could borrow some money in Monopoly. So,
that's a shame.
I know. I'm like, that is not how the rules of the game go, but that is how it goes in real life. So I told him, we are married and you owe me some money.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a shame. You've already talked about what you do for fun, and you gave us a little bit of insight into your self-care with taking Mondays off to just do nothing. But what would you say is your all-time go-to activity for self-care and fun?
Ooh. It's going to sound weird. For me, my all-time activity is, it's tennis. I love tennis. But it may be just taking a walk, going to the park and reading.
Yeah.
Just leave me alone. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I have to say that this conversation has been highly invigorating and so needed.
Very kind.
And I'm just so grateful that you stopped by the Sweet House. And I hope you guys took away some sweet gems to carry you throughout your life, whatever journey you're on, a spiritual journey, a college journey, a journey to figure out what you're supposed to do in this life, whether it's finding friendships like the one you have with Ricky Smiley or Oprah, finding mentors, or your circle that's going to empower you. I think that you gave us every hymn that we needed to sing in order to live this life to the fullest. So thank you so much for stopping by the Sweet House.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be at the Sweet House. Yes.
Yay. And we're done.
Woo woo.